Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of The Smart 7 is sponsored by Vodafone Business in partnership with Samsung. If you're running a business, any kind of business, you're probably spending some time thinking about AI, what to do, how much to use it, and how to get started. The answer could be in your pocket. The Samsung Galaxy S25, powered by Vodafone Business's reliable and award-winning network, will help you unleash your productivity through brilliant built-in Galaxy AI. And over the next few weeks, we're going to answer some of the questions you might have about how best to unlock the power of AI in your business. For example,
how can I use AI safely and securely so my data doesn't leak?
Choose trusted enterprise-grade tools with clear privacy policies. Avoid pasting sensitive financial or customer data into public systems. We recommend you use paid versions with business security options, apply staff training on data handling, and limit AI access to only the information it needs. With Galaxy AI, you can choose how your data is stored and managed, and with a Samsung business account, you can also customize what your employees access and their security levels. Getting back to the Samsung Galaxy S25, to take advantage of the features and change the way you do business, you'll need a Samsung account and a network connection. To find out more, search Vodafone Business Samsung, and for network verification, go to vodafone.co.uk/network. 7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday 7.
I'm Keir Evans, in for Jamie East this week, and on today's episode of the award-winning Sunday 7, we hear about Prince William's Earthshot Prize, find out what makes a moon super, and learn how Greek mussels are helping to track pollution. Plus, we'll Guyatt the Smart 7's tech guru looks at the story behind Apple TV's new logo and explains about the King and AI. If you're enjoying our episodes, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the 7 biggest stories on the Smart 7 in association with Metro. Before we get started though, it was on this day in 1825 that Thomas Drummond created limelight while working in Ireland. He was struggling to work while surveying without bright light and came up with the idea of using a lump of lime, also known as calcium oxide, heated by a flame and placed in front of a reflector, which he called limelight. Limelight was subsequently used in theatres, giving us the expression for someone who loves a bit of attention. This year marks 5 years of Prince William's environmental initiative, the Earthshot Prize. The project awards £1 million grants to environmental projects from across the world, who can then use them for funding to accelerate their growth and have greater impact. It's named after President Kennedy's moonshot, which aimed to get the man on the moon and back safely, and the Prince is committed to a 10-year programme. The interest in the project has grown every year, and this year saw almost 2,500 applications from over 72 countries. Prince William has been in Brazil all week in preparation for the awards ceremony, and he reflected on how the project has progressed as it reaches the halfway point.
We set out to tackle environmental issues head on and make real, lasting changes that would protect life on Earth. It was a mission driven by the kind of extraordinary optimism we've felt here tonight from these innovators. Their work is the proof we need that progress is possible.
As the event has gathered momentum, there's been a big uptick in interest and support, with Kylie Minogue performing at this year's event and big names including Brazilian football legend Cafu, Formula 1 driver Sebastian Vettel and Olympian Rebecca Andrade all presenting awards. Hollywood legend Tom Cruise also made an appearance on the video screen.
I wanted to take a moment to congratulate tonight's winners and to congratulate every finalist, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing and reminding us of what's possible when commitment meets purpose. So thank you all for all of it, for all the work you do.
The Earthshot Prizes themselves are based around 5 different goals, with a winner in each category. The goals are protect and restore nature, cleaner air, revive our oceans, build a waste-free world and fix our climate. The winners included the city of Bogota in Colombia for their work on air pollution, Lagos Fashion Week in Nigeria for their work on sustainable fashion, and a global conservation initiative called the High Seas Treaty, which comes into effect in January and is designed to help protect marine life. The tone of the event was positive, and there was a sense that real progress is being made in terms of awareness and global involvement in climate change. Christiana Figueres is a former head of the UN Framework on Climate Change, and she's now chair of the Earthshot Prize. She spoke to Sky News this week about climate change and the progress that has been made so far.
National governments have done the leadership role that they needed to do. The centre of gravity of action, of progress, of possibility and of opportunity has now shifted to the rest of stakeholders.
Prince William says the whole point of the Earthshot Prize is to build a sense of possibility around the environment and highlight the positives in a world where we often hear only negatives about the climate.
When we first started talking about this as a concept, optimism was the key word we always wanted to use, because urgency and optimism equal action. And there was an awful lot of pessimism going around. And I think you can feel today that the positivity and the sort of feeling of hope and we can do this from every single person. I mean, they're the brains and they're the fantastic people who are going to do what we need to do, and they're going to bring the planet into a better, healthier state than it's ever been before.
There's a famous Rodgers and Hammerstein musical called The King and I, but this week saw a bizarre story about King Charles and AI. Oh, and Google are planning data centres in space, and Apple TV went to a lot of trouble for their new on-screen logo. When things get busy in tech, there's only one man who we trust to spill the beans, and that is the Smart 7's tech guru Will Guyatt. So, Will, let's start with The King and AI. What is the story about?
Well, they say that truth is stranger than fiction, and this is about an actual king, our King Charles III, trying to warn Jensen Huang, the king of AI tech company Nvidia, about the dangers of AI by personally handing him a letter. This took place as Jensen was picking up the Queen Elizabeth Award for Engineering at a ceremony last week.
So the Nvidia boss got the letter handed to him this week, but it's a speech from 2023, right?
It's an interesting strategy and feels a bit like a kind of medieval Google, and a reminder of an old boss of mine who once asked me to print out the internet. Now, whether King Charles wrote up his own speech in handwriting or used a bit of Comic Sans to zhuzh it up, it was a speech he delivered at the world's first AI summit, held here back in 2023.
Did Jensen Huang suggest it's going to change his approach?
In all of his media responses, Mr. Huang seemed pretty polite, saying that the king obviously cares very deeply about AI safety, but then quickly enforced the fact that the king also believed in the incredible capability of the tech to transform the UK. At the same time as this is happening, in the US, Donald Trump has urged AI businesses to make rapid rather than cautious advances with the technology, and the US Secretary of Commerce has discouraged US politicians from using the word safety in AI conversations. Because, and I swear this is an absolutely direct quote, it makes us sound like we're afraid. Nvidia was valued at $5 trillion this week, so let's hope the letter from King Charles got taken out of Jensen's jacket pocket before it went to the dry cleaners or the bin.
It's been a funny week with new words popping up for the official Collins Dictionary. What is vibe coding?
We're getting closer to the end of another year, and this is an annual favourite as the Collins Dictionary adds its words of the year, and whether or not this ends up to be the next on fleek remains to be seen. Vibe coding is a rapidly growing kind of software development that turns normal language into computer code using artificial intelligence. It was coined by a former AI director at Tesla to describe how AI enables people like me and you to create new apps while being able to forget that code even exists. Apparently there's now 24 billion words in the Collins corpus database. That's quite a few. Others that made the list this year included biohacking, the activity of changing the natural processes in your body to boost your health and how long you live. And there was the broligarchy, otherwise known as those tech bros who appeared at Trump's inauguration. And a favourite of mine is Henry, an acronym for high earner, not rich yet.
And do I need to know what a clanker is?
We've spoken about many of these over the years. It's a derogatory term for computers, robots, or sources of AI, and was made popular by the cartoon Star Wars: The Clone Wars. It went viral on social media and expresses all of our frustrations with and the distrust of AI chatbots and platforms.
Tell me about Google's plans to take data centres to space.
You might think this was on a list somewhere in a Bond villain's underground lair alongside laser-toting crocodiles, but Google reckons it's going to start trialling this in 2027 as the cost of solar power and the cost of rocket launches both continue to fall. Google seems to think that 80 or so solar-powered satellites could be arranged in orbit about 400 miles out in space as a chance to meet the rising demand for AI back here on Earth. The company reckons the price of space launches is falling so quickly that costs of running a space-based data center would be comparable to one on Earth by the mid-2030s. On one hand, this reduces the impact on the land and water resources needed to cool existing data centres here on Earth, but it ignores the fact that we're then shifting the problem away into space, filling that with shit and destroying it at the same time.
Is that even practical? Do I want my data floating around in zero gravity?
Google clearly thinks there's some benefit to be had to pushing our data into space, but they're clearly focusing on the positives and ignoring all of the negatives, like the huge carbon cost of slinging rockets into space. Sometimes I sit here wondering if adding in space to the end of any idea enables businesses like Google to generate billions of dollars from those who think it could be the next best thing.
And finally, we talked previously about how Apple TV Plus has rebranded into Apple TV, but they spent a fair bit of money doing it, right?
While everyone else, including Coca-Cola, have chosen AI to make their Christmas ad this year, a video revealed this week showed that Apple's fancy new logo sequence for the rebranded Apple TV was made with practical real-life human effects, using glass and lighting, and it took days and many people to make. And that said, it looks organic and real on screen and has this strange feeling of warmth, but it is only on screen for between 1 and 13 seconds, depending on how it's being used. This intro, known in the TV and streaming land as an ident, also has a new sonic intro sound created by Billie Eilish's brother, the producer Figueres. He says he's tried to mirror the sounds of the US TV networks NBC and HBO that I've heard so many times in front of shows like The Sopranos that I can recall it in my head. And ironically, given the jingle is only 12 seconds long, it appears that Figueres has spent way more time this week talking about how long it took him to create it than it actually took him to create it. Apple have clearly spent a load of cash on making this possible, but being Apple, they aren't going to tell us how much. Now I'm going back to 1995 for the 2.5 second boot sound that was created by the ambient music legend Brian Eno for Microsoft's Windows 95. That's now played billions and billions of times around the world, and there's probably still a few computers running it 30 years on, and he only got 35 grand in cash. Let's hope Figueres negotiated a pay-per-play deal, hey?
Still to come on the Sunday 7 in association with Metro, warnings from the UN on climate change, and get ready for a spider robot. While the Earthshot Prize has been focused on the positive aspects of improvements on climate change, next week sees the annual COP30 climate conference in Brazil, and the tone seems less positive. Driven by Donald Trump's refusal to acknowledge climate change and his hatred of windmills and solar power, the US has stepped away almost entirely from its role as a driving force in renewable energy. Recently, we saw China commit to reducing emissions, but the world remains at a crucial tipping point where it appears we'll miss the 1.5 degree temperature limiting target set in Paris in 2016. In advance of the COP summit, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was sounding the alarm about the prospects on global warming.
Governments must arrive at the upcoming COP30 meeting in Brazil with concrete plans to slash their own emissions over the next decade, while also delivering climate justice to those on the front lines of a crisis they did little to cause.
With many of the big polluters not attending this year's summit, including India, the US and Russia, the European Union did agree this week on a new carbon emission deal, which will see reductions of 90% by 2040 when compared to 1990 levels. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is in Brazil, and he says the UK understands the need for urgent action.
Can energy security wait too? Can bill payers wait? Can we win the race for green jobs and investment by going slow? Of course not. Inaction would only deepen these problems.
While Starmer remains positive about green energy and the need to reach net zero, but Reform and the Tories have signalled they would scrap climate legislation and reduce investment in renewable energy. Nigel Topping is chair of the UK's Climate Change Committee, and he says there needs to be a clear consensus from the UK's politicians if progress is to be made.
What I want to make sure is that we're having a conversation about this transition that's based on facts and evidence, and yes, alternatives, because the alternative, and this is what our evidence shows that we provide to government in February this year, is that we can save a lot of money by moving towards this clean green economy, and the alternative is to keep relying on very volatile overseas fossil fuels. Let's have a conversation about how we navigate this transition, which is happening, but at the level of evidence and alternatives, not just headlines.
New Green Party leader Zach Polanski has been pushing a new brand of what he calls eco-populism and is keen to accelerate the UK's response to the climate crisis. He spoke to Sky News this week and called for more action against companies who are driving the climate crisis.
We hold agency and power, and when I say we, I'm talking about the country and the government. If we make sure that the polluter pays, we need to hold fossil fuel companies accountable. It is outrageous that we've just had a hurricane in Jamaica that has killed people and caused mass devastation. Why are we calling it Hurricane Melissa? It should be called Hurricane Shell. Or at this point, it should be called Hurricane Labour.
We're just about through the worst part of the year for arachnophobes, where giant outdoor spiders wander through the house in search of a mate. But if spiders give you anxiety, then you might not be too thrilled about the new innovation in robotics, a 3D printing spider-like giant robot called Charlotte. According to its creators, the robot could revolutionise construction processes, not just on Earth, but potentially on the moon. Golembiewski is the co-founder and CEO of Earthbuilt Technology, one of the partners in the project, and he explains how the robot combines Earth and 3D printing to create brick-like objects for quick construction.
The material that we produce is essentially this. It's very, very hard. It's kind of brick-like, and it's just force of sheer compression on the kind of earth that you will find in your back garden.
The core technology within Charlotte will be a game changer wherever it goes in the world. It will make construction really, really cheap. We're talking about knocking zeros off the end. It'll also make it carbon free and in some cases carbon negative. So it'll stop this damaging of the world that we're living in as we build. We've got to do this at some stage.
The robot's legs can extend over 18 feet, so it can work on a building site and create bricks and elements which can be put to immediate use. Clyde Webster is the founder and CEO of Crest Robotics, who helped to design Charlotte, and says she could be deployed almost anywhere.
It's actually perfect for construction on the moon because by weight, 99% of the structure can just be the material you find around you. And for lunar construction, you can't take a lot with you. It's extremely expensive to send stuff to the moon.
Still to come this Sunday 7, in association with Metro, the UK stakes a claim on quantum computing, and we take a close look at some Greek muscles.
Right after this. Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of The Smart 7 is sponsored by Vodafone Business in partnership with Samsung. When you're running your own business, pretty much anywhere can be your office, the spare room, the back garden, or, like here, the local cafe. With the power of Vodafone Business's reliable award-winning network, combined with the Samsung Galaxy S25, there's no limit to what you can do pretty much anywhere. And over the next few weeks, we're going to answer some of the questions you might have about how best to unlock the power of AI in your business. For example,
how can I use AI safely and securely so my data doesn't leak?
Choose trusted enterprise-grade tools with clear privacy policies. Avoid pasting sensitive financial or customer data into public systems. We recommend you use paid versions with business security options, apply staff training on data handling, and limit AI access to only the information it needs. With Galaxy AI, you can choose how your data is stored and managed, and with a Samsung Business account, you can also customize what your employees access and their security levels. Getting back to the Samsung Galaxy S25, to take advantage of the Galaxy AI features and change the way you do business, you'll need a Samsung account and a network connection. To find out more, search Vodafone Business Samsung, and for network verification, go to vodafone.co.uk/network.
Welcome back.
While AI has been the hot new thing for some time, the next hot new thing is already here. That's quantum computing, a radical reinvention of how traditional computers work that offers parallel processing instead, which could dramatically speed up computing processes and unlock a world of new discoveries. The UK has been at the centre of research into quantum computing, but two senior political figures, Tony Blair and William Hague, are warning this week that unless the government gets more focused on the potential of it, we risk losing a leadership position in this new tech. Science and Innovation Minister Lord Patrick Vallon says there's no question that the government needs to accelerate its investment in the potential of quantum computing.
Quantum computing is going to change the way computing
computers work for all sorts of things. It's really important for national security. It's important for things like designing new materials, for making new medicines, for potentially the way interactions occur with banking. It's just going to change orders of magnitude the way in which computers can help in those places because of its speed and capacity to deal with really big problems.
The report on quantum computing has called for a clear strategy, warning that the US and China are racing ahead in the tech and that the UK risks being left behind. Dr. Peter Thompson is the CEO of the National Physical Laboratory, and he says cooperation is going to be crucial, and he welcomed this week's announcement that the UK will now work with Australia and other members of the G7.
No nation can develop quantum technologies in isolation. Like all nations, we're looking at critical technologies, and of course there are national security considerations as well. So it's really important that we understand how these technologies can be used so that we can use them and that we can protect ourselves against perhaps their misuse.
If you were up late or indeed up early this week, you'll probably have noticed that the moon seems dramatically bigger and brighter. It's not heading for Earth in some kind of disaster movie type scenario. This week just saw what is known as a supermoon, and this one is known as a beaver supermoon and was bigger and more dramatic than any of the others this year. That's because the moon is currently at its closest point in its orbit to Earth, which makes the supermoon all the more dramatic. There's still one more supermoon due in early December if you missed this one. Dr. Megan Argo is a professional astrophysicist and science communicator and is reading astrophysics at the University of Lancashire. She explained to BBC Breakfast what makes a supermoon, well, super.
The difference between normal, when it's 30 Earth diameters away, and a supermoon is when it's a supermoon, it's 28 Earth diameters away. So it's slightly closer, slightly further away. So the opposite effect is a micromoon, and that's when the moon is furthest away in its orbit. At furthest away, it's 28 Earth diameters away. So that's the difference. It's 4 Earth diameters. And when you're 11 metres apart, you can imagine how much that makes a difference to the position of the moon. When the moon rises, when you get a supermoon, the best time to look is when it's on the horizon, when it's rising. And when you're looking at the moon on the horizon, you're looking through a lot of the Earth's atmosphere. And that has an effect on the light that's reaching you from the moon. So the moon doesn't generate its own light. The only light we see from the moon is reflected sunlight. So when sunlight passes through the atmosphere, the same effect happens when you see sunrise or sunset and you get those wonderful orange colours. The light gets scattered. And the same thing happens when the moon is on the horizon. Some of that blue light is scattered out and you see predominantly the red colours, so the moon will look redder when it's on the horizon.
Microplastics and their infiltration of our world has become a hot topic as the world becomes more focused on plastic pollution and the long-term threat it poses to the environment. Now, Greek scientists have found a unique way of tracking microplastics in the ocean. They're using mussels. No, they're not bench pressing plastics, they're using actual mussels to track plastic pollution. Because mussels are what's called filter feeding organisms, they absorb a wide range of contaminants from the ocean floor, and by positioning cages of mussels at different locations across the waters of Greece, scientists have been able to track the spread of microplastics. Nicolette Dicka is a biologist at the Hellenic Centre for Marine Research, and she explains what they found when they began to investigate the mussels.
On average, we find 1 or 2 microplastics per population that we analyze. For example, if we catch 40 fish, 1.5 of these fish will be found with a microplastic in their stomach. This means that there will be more microplastics available for marine organisms to consume. So this means that we may, in the next years, we will find even more microplastics in the guts of the organisms.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris. Hi, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of the Smart 7 is brought to you by Sainsbury's, where you can save big on festive favourites with nectar prices. It may be November, but Christmas is just around the corner, and that means you probably need to start your Christmas party planning. But the good news is that if you're looking for value for money this Christmas, Sainsbury's have great discounts to make your festive season truly magical. For example, this week you can get half price on Bailey's Original with 1 litre for just £11, 789 Prosecco for £5.50, or Newland's Point Sour Sauvignon Blanc for just £6, all with Nectar prices. You can shop in-store or online and save big on festive favourites this Christmas with Nectar price at Sainsbury's. This offer's for 18+, Nectar app required. Prosecco and wine offer ends November the 12th. Available in supermarkets and online but excludes locals. Delivery fees may apply, subject to availability. T's and C's apply. Please drink responsibly.